All right, well, good morning, everyone. I'd like to start out here by asking you all a question. And you can just raise your hands in an answer. How many of you have implemented or are implementing a solution where your users, you expect your users are so excited to get their hands on it that they're just going to grab it and run with it? Anyone? No? Okay. So what I decided to do, instead of talking about features and functionality of our system, I decided to talk about a little bit about the biggest blocker that I've heard, and indeed the thing we encountered in our organization, which was culture. I hear that that's a problem for many other people other than us. So I'll start out by talking a little bit about who we are. This is what most people know about Penn State University. If you followed college football at all, you'll have heard this chant, oops, which is not going to play. All right, well, you'll have heard the chant of "We Are Penn State." And what we do in Penn State Outreach is to connect the resources of the university with the community and beyond. So we kind of sort of sit between the university and deal with anybody who's not the typical 18 to 24-year-old resident student. And that's what we do. So we took a look at our solution, and our original intent was to increase the engagement of our employees. We found that our employees were deeply connected to Penn State for one reason or another, or the area of State College, Pennsylvania, where the main campus lives. But we had some issues with employee engagement. So that was one of our goals. And we found that organizations in general have three different types of employees. You'll recognize these in yours as well. The first are engaged employees, all right? These are the people that really are the movers and shakers. They get things done. They have a profound connection to what you do in your organization, and they move the organization forward. Then you have your not engaged employees. Okay, these people aren't bad. These people they come mostly for a paycheck. They work from 8 to 5, and they're doing their jobs. They're giving you their time, but they're not really giving you their passion, their energy, and those things that are needed to be creative and take risks. And then you have your actively disengaged employees. And these employees aren't just unhappy at work. They're busy acting out their unhappiness. And every day, these workers undermine exactly what their engaged counterparts, their coworkers, accomplish. So, what's an engaged employee? Engaged employees tend to live according to their personal core values. Hopefully they match up with your organizations, and not the ones, I mean, that are plastered on the wall. I mean the ones that you really are living every day. They're contributors who operate outside organizational boundaries. They do this naturally. They accept blame, they pass praise, and they build relationships with others based on resonant core values and spend a lot of time nurturing those relationships. They know how to leverage what you're doing. And interestingly enough, most of the social solutions are designed specifically for these employees to create them. So they have a noble cause, which is basically their purpose for being there. And when they get together, they make history. So we want more of these, right? So how do you do it? And why? So one of the things that, when you're talking about business value with Enterprise 2.0, we took a look at a bunch of different studies, and one of the most interesting ones was one from Gallup that said in world-class organizations, you have on average a ratio of actively engaged employees to actively disengaged employees of 9.5 roughly to 1. In average organizations, you have a ratio of 1.8 to 1. And they didn't provide any data on organizations that were failing miserably, but I'm guessing that that's significantly lower. So how do you make it happen? How do you build that value? There have been some estimates, I guess there was one from Best Buy, that for every 0.1% of employee engagement that they got in a store, that was worth $100,000 in the store's operating revenue. This is huge. So for us, the technology solution was fairly easy to implement. Thanks to the guys at Thought Farmer, they made it really simple. And that story is posted on the web. You can read it there of how we actually launched. Oops. And I'll just take out my earring here. I wondered what that noise was. Maybe. All right, so now I'm going to be single-earingless. So we embarked on this journey, and it's taken about 2 years of learning for us to really figure out where we were going to go, because we launched in January of 2009, okay, a year, and now it's 2010. So what resources did we use? We had a variety, and this will be posted if you're interested in learning any more about anything that we have learned over the past year. All of these pieces rolled in, and we tried to kind of distill this and figure out what it was that would be relevant for us, because there's a lot of learning there. So the first part, we kept coming back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You're all probably familiar with this. And the first piece of this is biological needs. This is food, water, shelter. If your employees are worried about where they're going to sleep tonight, they're probably not going to be creative, innovative, or making connections with other people in the organization. Hopefully that's not the case for any of us here. Then there are security needs. This one's a little trickier in this environment because, of course, we've got the economy going on, but employees need to feel a sense that when they come to work, it's safe to take risks. The next piece is love and relationship needs. And no, I am not talking about dating in the enterprise. That's a whole different presentation. What I'm talking about is this is where social lives. This is where having your employees be connected with each other and have a sense of belonging really lives here. And a lot of organizations don't pay attention to this, and they fail sort of miserably at it. You've got self-esteem needs. This is pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, self-actualization. It's kind of a corny word, kind of a yoga-bearing word, which is pretty cool. But what I'm talking about here, this is where creativity, this is where innovation, this is where a drive to participate comes from. So we know that, okay? We have that piece of information, and we're pulling that into our brains. And then the wonderful folks at Thought Farmer helped us out with something else. We talked about network theory. So this little orange dot is Bob, and he's connected to a number of other people. And they, too, are connected with a number of other people. So we started out thinking that what we would do with our social intranet was just connect people together. But we discovered something else, that it wasn't about making those individual connections, because sometimes nodes break. And then you've got whole sections of your organizations that are left out. So we decided to go with a different model. This model is very well described by David Logan in Tribal Leadership, of triadic relationships. So we connect people in these triads, and it forms a very stable relationship for across the organization.